Eurosceptics like yourself and me, we'll say, oh, they've overstepped. And it does appear, for instance, even some Remainers have been a little bit unhappy about what they've had to say, and indeed what Sir John Major and
Yeah.
Tony Blair have had to say. But at the end of the day, as lots of people say, it's the European Commission, it's the European Union, the other 27 member states, they're the ones who hold all the cards. We keep talking about how, well, they're going to come to the table, but we haven't seen any compromises from them yet, have we?
No, what we've seen is a kind of constant diatribe of what the EU doesn't want. And like everything else, I always think that people think that's strength. It's not. I think in negotiations, people that shout loud and kind of rattle the tins, as it were, at you. I think the reality is that always indicates to me weakness, not strength. I think there's a panic going on in the European Union about what is going to happen when the UK leaves. And I think today's speech is really good because it'll spell out to the European Union that A, we're leaving the European Union. Basically, there's no question of these second referendums.
And I just put this finally to you, Alastair. When you talk about trust and trust over the issues of Syria and things like that, and information and intelligence, do you not think one of the key elements of trust in a democracy is trusting that the British people, when they are given a free and fair vote after a very lengthy and very, very noisy campaign, as we saw in 2016, that they can be trusted to make the right decision? And they've made the right decision, and we should move on and enact that decision.
But I do accept
But
that.
is there a but there, Alastair?
Yes, there is a but. Let me tell you why there's a but. I'll tell you why there's a but. Because this is like the biggest decision that we're going to make. So the people have given their instructions to the government. Get on and do it. As they go through the process of getting on and doing it, it's becoming clear, one, that so many of the promises made were false. Two, that the negotiations are going very, very badly. Three, that we are going to be worse off. In those circumstances, if we really trust the people, why not say to the people, OK, the politicians can't decide, the cabinet's divided, Parliament's divided, the Labour Party's divided, the Tory Party's divided. Why can't we actually say, now that we know what Brexit is going to mean, you, the people who gave us the instructions to go and do it,
to get a final say. But of course, you realise what that would mean. Of course, it would actually mean if people decided to vote against the terms of a deal, that we would still be leaving under Article 50, and we would have a hard Brexit, which I thought was what you didn't want.
We don't know that. I think
we don't know that. I think we do.
No.
I mean, there are a lot of people who say, look, we want tariff-free access to the European Union. So what's wrong with remaining in? People talk about a customs union as opposed to the customs union. Do you think that's not possible?
Tariff-free access is different from a customs union. That's a free trade agreement. If you take the agreement just done with Canada, the CETA agreement, that's about free trade. That's about removing tariffs and obstacles to trade. Everybody's in favour of that. A customs union means that you then have a united front against the rest of the world. So it's Europe against the rest of the world. It's about maintaining tariff barriers against the rest of the world, making goods coming from other countries more expensive. And that's hugely the disadvantage of the poorest in our society because the biggest tariffs fall on food, clothing and footwear. And those are areas where people with the lowest incomes spend the highest proportion of their disposable income, and so you just lower their standard of living.
I am concerned about those Conservatives who might decide to vote against the government's policy on this. And by the way, Theresa May has made it quite clear that we are sticking to the policy of leaving the customs.
But in that case, is this effectively a vote of no? Will it be a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister?
No, because on Thursday, the motion, which itself is extremely defective for a variety of reasons, is not in fact something that is binding. The Conservative Party will be participating in the debate, of course, but it's not going to be a binding vote. What is more concerning is the amendment that was made in the House of Lords, the unelected House of Lords, who, in my opinion, are defying the democratic will of the British people in what they're proposing, because they want to make it a condition that the customs union issue is dealt with in the negotiations in the way in which they want.
The battle is between two customs options after Brexit. So the new customs partnership, which the Prime Minister seems to favour, and the max-fax solution. So the new customs partnership, actually nobody really wants this. Even the Financial Times reported over the weekend that businesses don't want this. And, it's a system whereby the UK would collect taxes on behalf of the EU, and the EU would collect tariffs on behalf of the UK. But this would just scotch any idea of a free trade agreement. So it'd be impossible to know where goods imported into the EU would end up. So exporters in countries that had a free trade deal with the UK would have to pay EU-level tariffs and then try to claim the money back by proving the unprovable, really, that the goods ended up on the UK market. And that would just destroy any chance of getting a single free trade agreement around the world.
There is a big question mark over Theresa May's future in relation to this. Even though, she says she's delivering Brexit, she said all these red lines, single market, customs union, the battles over this customs arrangement. Again, this is just the battle that's going on within the British government. They still have to actually agree something with the European Union. It's almost like we've forgotten that bit of it. Is it possible that this could actually bring Theresa May down, or are the threats that are being made by Remainers and by Brexiteers actually a little bit hollow, because neither of them want to risk a leadership contest and neither of them want to risk a Corbyn government?
No, I genuinely think she could be brought down, and I think the DUP would be totally happy to do that, if they thought she was selling out on this. I think people really want to get behind Theresa May, and you'll see that she does have a lot of goodwill, but she does seem to be frittering it away when she talks about things like the unworkable new customs partnership. People really want to get behind her. They really want to believe her when she says Brexit means Brexit, but she is seeming to backtrack on all these things. It does seem like Theresa is backsliding. So there is a lot of anger in the Parliamentary Conservative Party.
Do you think this is basically, some people are claiming that the EU are basically using Ireland as a way to stop Brexit, to thwart the democratic will of the British people, given that that's pretty much what they've done every time any country has voted against anything the EU wants to do?
Well, it's quite clear that we're in a negotiation, and we are one country.
We're in a capitulation, not a negotiation.
It's a negotiation between us and the Commission, representing 27 member states, all of whom have got a different agenda in terms of what relationship they want to see with us. The Irish border question is clearly one that they can use as leverage, and in that instance, why wouldn't they? Our position isn't clear. The government promised a white paper, which hasn't materialised. Jeremy's joke yesterday, comparing the government's position with the policies of Northern Rail, with cancellations and delays all over the place, was quite a good joke and got quite a laugh in the Commons. But the government is yet still today discussing what its position is going to be. We're supposed to be debating 15 Lord's amendments next week. Earlier this week, we were told it was going to be a 12-hour session on Tuesday. Now we're told it might be split over 2 days. We won't know how we're going to be debating these issues next week until the Leader of the House makes a business statement later on this morning.
I mean, it is an absolutely extraordinary situation. It's an absolute shambles, no question at all about that. I would have accepted the outcome, whatever the outcome was. But you and those others in Our Future, Our Choice, Femi, of course, we have regularly on the show, don't accept the outcome. Do you not think that's undermining democracy, which is a bigger threat to our country?
I don't think it is undermining democracy. Since the referendum, we've learnt so much new information. We've seen the costs and complexity of Brexit really become clear. And this campaign is really focused on Labour. And, we have an opposition for a reason. They're meant to oppose things. And they're not really doing enough, in my opinion, to back young people in their opposition to Brexit.
Were you aware at the general election when you voted Labour that Jeremy Corbyn was a Brexiteer and had been a lifelong Eurosceptic?
Well, in the seat in which I was voting for a very pro-European Labour MP, so I had absolutely no qualms about supporting that MP. And, the most important thing, don't get me wrong, I know we're targeting Labour today, is bringing down this awful Tory government, which is a real threat to young people's future. But to do that, Labour have to take a good stand against Brexit, because the only way that the government will fall before 2022 is if Labour actually attack the Tories on Brexit, because they're making a complete mess of it.
Is this about the actual words in the Brexit proposal, or is this more about being disrespected, being dissed by the Prime Minister and her aides, who briefed out about collective cabinet responsibility, who appeared the joy of the Remainers in cabinet and elsewhere? Was this more about personality than policy?
No, you've known me long enough to know I've got pretty broad shoulders.
I also know you're someone who resigns from a lot of jobs.
No, twice in 30 years, hardly a lot of jobs. It's not always clear.
You threaten a lot.
Julia, it's not. No, I don't. I never threaten. That's one of the great myths of all this.